I call the Honourable Nikki Wagner.
Speaker. Mr. Chair. New Zealand Customs Service is the oldest ministry, but it's one of the most innovative, tech-savvy and forward-looking. Our job is to actively protect the border, to manage and process passengers and goods across the border, and to collect His Majesty's revenue. We're planning to collect over $13 billion this year. That's in GST, tariff and excise. As the volumes of passengers and goods have increased across our borders over the last few years and look to continue to increase, we're embracing new technologies. New technologies like SmartGate, which is particularly well known, which is helping us to process those passengers up to 5 million this year, and to process the low-risk passengers so that we can focus our officers onto higher-risk work. We've also got our JBMS, which is the Joint Border Management System, and we use that to manage and process import and exports. And that's been particularly successful for the industry. 3.5 million transactions have gone through that process, and it speeds up the registration of information from a 24-hour turnover to just minutes, and is available 24/7. And overall, I think it's the embracing of this sort of technology that has allowed customs to be ranked by the World Economic Forum in their latest ranking as 4th in the world of 138 countries for enabling trade, and 6th overall for the efficiency of the border clearance. And we're aiming high. All border agencies, we work together, and because we're a small exporting country at the bottom of the world, we want and we need to have world-class border processing. Now, Budget 2016 focused on managing risk at the border, about $18.5 million for export security initiatives, and particularly to establish a secure trade lane between Australia and New Zealand. This, of course, will help clearance times and speed for exporters and importers from Australia and New Zealand. We've also mentioned that we have more funding for detector dogs. Now, detector dogs have been particularly successful in New Zealand. They're successful in detecting drugs, but also money. And just recently, we announced that they found $10 million worth of money coming across the border. So we're having another 5 teams, which will take it to 19 teams. And that will mean that we have good coverage right across the country. And they're particularly useful for mail and fast freight, which is increasing. We've also allocated $4.7 million to our modernisation and transformation of customs operations at the border. This is all about increasing responsiveness and operational efficiency. One of the other areas that I think is really important and we're funding is outreach to small businesses. As a small exporting country, we want to make the most of every opportunity for these businesses, and sometimes they need a bit of help to negotiate the documentation and the processes at the border, and so that they can make the most of our free trade agreements. We're also signing a mutual recognition agreement with Australia. Again, this is about working with the Australian importers and exporters so that we can have a faster process and a more efficient and a cheaper process as well. And the last bit of technology that I think is going to make a really big difference for us is our joint electronic verification system. That is a work we're doing with China Customs, and it's all about matching documentation as it goes across the border. Because we have preferential entry into China, they're always very conscious that we're that we say what we are and we're doing what we're doing. So this joint electronic verification will be able to match our documentation electronically, and that will make sure that we get a speedier clearance and our exporters get their goods to market much more quickly and efficiently. At the end of this year, I'm planning to introduce a new customs and excise bill. The reason we're doing that the present bill we've got is at best 20 years old, some of it's 50 years old, some of it's 100 years old. We're not making any major changes to the powers, but it's all about modernising, simplifying, streamlining, and making sure that our bill can accommodate new technologies and new business practices. We've worked very hard with stakeholders, with importers and exporters, and the whole idea of this new Act is to make... Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair.
I call